Good evening and welcome to the Job Search Solution, the radio program where we talk about looking for a job, changing jobs, changing careers, hiring. And always we begin with a prayer. Dear God, grant us thy peace and thy mercy, thy will be done. And just as we do every Wednesday evening, Rich Savinsky is going to be with us here in a few minutes talking about consultants in the workplace. He's got a great topic this evening. He always has some very thoughtful, researched ideas. I also want to remind everyone that if you want a free book about how to find a job, just send me an email, tony@babich.com, TONY@BABICH.com, and we'll send you a free book. Include your address, will you? I got two of them this week that had names but no addresses. At any rate, I wanted to speak about a subject today that is we're seeing more and more of. This has to do around what used to be and what is now. Had a lady that's been a candidate of mine on and off for about 10 years. She's good at what she does. And right after the pandemic, when things were the way they were, she had a totally remote job, and she moved to Forney. The company that she was working for was in Plano. She moves out to Forney because she's working remote, and she's making an $85,000 base salary, and life is pretty good. Well, she gets laid off about 6 months ago, and she decides, well, life's rough, tough enough. I'll just take some time off. So she takes about 3 months off, 3 or 4 months off. And then she decides that she's going to back into the workplace. It ought to be real easy. A lot of remote jobs. I live in Forney, no big deal. I'll find a job. Well, after 3 months of vacation or whatever, she calls me and she says, well, I'm in Forney. I want a remote job, and I want at least $85,000 because I need $85,000 to pay my bills. And I say, well, the market's changed quite a bit. I don't think we're going to see $85,000. She says, well, I can't take less than $80,000 base salary because that's what I need to pay my bills. I have to have that. I won't take the job. I said, well, surely that's not really maybe likely to happen. It's going to be more like $60,000 to $65,000. And you aren't, I don't know if we're even going to see anything remote, because a lot of companies have changed their remote status to in the office status. In fact, in the industry, the profession she's in, the majority of them have changed to in the office, if not full-time, 3 days a week. She says, well, I just can't do that. I have to have remote, and I have to have the $80,000 to pay my bills. I tried to explain that it doesn't matter what she needs or what she has to have. The market isn't going to bear it. I'll do the best I can. The more she makes, the more I make, and I would love that. But it isn't. I just don't see it. There are too many people in her profession that live closer and that don't have to contend with a remote drive, and they are willing to work in the office because that's what the market is bearing. Well, we've been going back at this. She's been calling me and complaining about this now for a week. You got to think about this kind of stuff. No jobs last forever. In fact, the average job in the United States lasts 2.5 years. This remote thing we knew was going to go away somewhere, if not all the way, most of the way, somewhere down the line. You can't take a job or go to work for a company as though it was going to last forever. It just isn't. And you've got to take into account what happens if it doesn't. What happens if it doesn't stay remote? What happens if I do have to drive? We're in Texas. We build out, we don't build up. You got to drive in this place. It's just part of the deal. Well, she took a job as though it was going to be forever. Not very many jobs are like mine. I've been here 50 years, but that's not likely in most places. You've got to take a job as though it's not going to last forever, and as though the conditions aren't going to be that way, and as though the money isn't going to be that way. You got to take into account. You can't, I realize, you can't budget for everything, so to speak. You can't take everything into account. There's going to be some trade-offs. But the idea of moving to Forney, the idea of being remote all the time, just was too much. So now she's in a real quandary. She says she needs $80,000. The market's going to only bear about 65. She is going to probably have to drive, if not 5 days a week, at least 3 days a week. It's just the way it is. And just because she needs $80,000 doesn't mean that she's going to get $80,000. And the idea that I told her about the 65, she said, well, I earned that 8 years ago. Well, I'm sorry that you did that. That's what the market will bear. Just because you may earn that kind of money 5 or 6 years ago doesn't mean anything. The market is the way it is. So when you go to change jobs, or when you go to move or travel or whatever, think about those things, that the world doesn't revolve around you. The world changes and you have to revolve around it. That's just the way it is. All right, we're going to take a short break. Stay tuned. This is Tony Bashir with the Job Search Solution.